Hi guys, Casper MMA here, and today we are back with another UFC predictions video on the channel. Today, giving my predictions for UFC Fight Night Moreno versus Albazi. Now, we're just coming off the back of UFC 308, and that was an insane card out in Abu Dhabi, I think it was. Topuria, he's honestly one of the best featherweights we've ever seen. I mean, knocking out Volkanovski and Holloway back to back is absolutely mental. Khamzat subbing Whittaker in round one is also mental. I mean, that card was awesome. That Shara Bullet KO as well, the double spinning thing. Honestly, it was such a good card. But this weekend, we've got the Canada card, and there's some good fights on it. So before I get into it, make sure, if you're not already, and you enjoy this content, you go down below and hit that subscribe button. It's free, and it's much appreciated. So I'm going to rattle through this card. There's 14 bouts, and it's quite late. I want to get to sleep. So we'll kick things off with the first fight, which is Jack Shaw versus Youssef Zalal. Now, Jack Shaw, a Welshman, I actually picked him to win his last fight in the UFC, and it was a mistake because I picked him to beat Anderson Brito, and he had that really bad cut in his leg, and the doctor stopped it. So I think Shaw wanted to carry on, but the doctor said no. But still, I do think he's pretty good. His only other loss in his career was to Ricky Simone. So apart from that, he's got a pretty decent record. I mean, 17-2, looks pretty good. 9 wins by submission as well, 6-2 in the UFC. So I still think he's a very good fighter. Youssef Zalal, on the other hand, he's 15-5. I mean, he's coming off a couple wins here. I mean, he's on a 2-fight win streak in this stint in the UFC. I mean, he did get cut after he lost to 3 fights in a row. But I mean, he did go to decision with Topuria, which is fair enough. But yeah, since then, he had a draw to Blackshear as well. So he went on a 4-fight not winning streak, and then won on this regional scene, come back. So I mean, should be a fun little fight to open up the prelims. This one could go either way. I mean, I do think Zalal is a pretty good fighter, but I'm going to back the Welshman again. I mean, I've picked him to back Brito, and Brito's pretty good, so I'm going to back him to beat Zalal here, and I reckon Shaw gets the job done, and I think he gets the job done by decision. Now, moving up the card to Jamie Lynn Horth versus Ivana Petrovic. Now, a women's fight. We've got the Canadian woman, Horth, 6-1. Her only loss coming by split decision to Veronica Hardy. But before that, I mean, she beat Lupita Gomez in amateur bouts. But yeah, she's got a few good wins under her belt here. A few KOs, a few submissions in a professional career. Her opponent, Petrovic, 7-1. So both of these women have got a pretty decent record. Her only loss was to Luana Carolina in her debut in the UFC. So it's going to be a close one. I mean, it's a women's fight. It could probably go either way, but it's a coin flip. I'm going to go with Jamie Lynn Horth to get the job done in her home country, and I reckon she gets the decision. Now, moving up the card to Chad Anheliger versus Cody Gibson. Now, I think 2 old boys fighting here. Chad Anheliger is 37, and Cody Gibson, let me check his age for you. He's also 37, so some veterans of the game right here. Anheliger 13-7. He has coming off a win against Chalamompos Grigoriou. I probably butchered that. And then he had 2 losses before that. But apart from that, he's had quite a few good wins, to be fair. One on the contender series as well. I mean, I don't think he's too bad, really. He's 2-2 in the UFC. His opponent, Cody Gibson, I mean, I think he is coming off a win as well. Yeah, he beat Brian Kelleher recently, which is alright win. I mean, Brian Kelleher's not the greatest fighter, is he? And then he's lost twice before that. He was in the Ultimate Fighter. So it's not a greatest matchup here. Both guys old, probably going to retire if they lose. I'm not even sure who's going to win this one, but I feel I'm going to go with Anheliger to get this done. You know, I feel like he's had some decent wins, to be fair, under his in the UFC. Jesse Strader, Grigoriou. I mean, and what's his face? Cody Gibson is 2-5, I think, in total in the UFC. So I'm going with Chad Anheliger to get this job done by decision. Now, moving up the card again to Serhii Sidey, or Sidey, versus Garrett Armfield. Now, this should be a close fight, I think. Garrett Armfield, 10-4. Sidey is 10-2, I'm pretty sure. Both very similar records, really. Garrett Armfield coming off a loss by rear naked choke to Hierstand, but before that he beat Brad Katona, he beat Kazama, and then he lost in his debut in the UFC. So he's not the worst fighter in the world. It's Armfield. I mean, what's his face, Sidey, 10-2. Only losses. Raymond Tavares in his last fight, and he lost back on a regional scene a while ago. But he had he's had some good wins. To be fair, won in the contender series by KO. Also, he fought. I think I remember this fight. He KO'd Tavares on the contender series and lost by split decision to him in the UFC. So not much to go off of these, but of like CD in the UFC really. He's only really fought the like a rematch in there, but I do think that CD is going to get the job done. He's got a bit of a better record. I mean, he looks pretty decent in Canada as well. I'm going to go with CD to get this job done by decision now. Moving up the card too. Alexander Romanov versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Now, Romanov, 17-3. I mean, he's got a pretty decent record, but he has lost to Jourdain, Almeida, Volkov, and Tybura. So he's basically he's lost to some good good heavyweights he loses to, but he has beat like Balaji Ivavov. Yeah, I don't know how you say that. Chase Sherman. I mean, he's went on a bit of a win streak for a while in the UFC, so he's not the worst fighter ever. I mean, he's got like one round of cardio basically. Rodrigo Nascimento, 11-2. Looks like he's all right. 6 wins by submission, so probably going to be a grappling match. This, I have a feeling, maybe. He's coming off a loss to Derrick Lewis, so but yeah, he did have a 3-fight winning streak before that, beating some lower level heavyweights. But it's going to be an interesting matchup. Pretty low level heavyweight this one. Romanov and Rodriguez, is that his name? I forgot his name now. Rodrigo Nascimento. So should be interesting. But I think like Romanov is a step up for Nascimento. I mean, he lost to Derrick Lewis, so if you're losing Derrick Lewis, you're probably going to lose to Romanov. So I feel like Romanov is going to get this job done, and I think he gets the submission in round number 2. Now, moving up the card too. Charles Jourdain versus Victor Henry. Now, Jourdain, not on the best of streaks at the minute. 2-fight losing streak. Sean Woodson, that should never been a split decision. Honestly, that was shocking. And Gene Silva uppercut as well. But I remember I picked Gene Silva. He was the underdog in this fight, which was crazy. But I just don't think that Charles Jourdain is very good, if I'm being honest. He's 6-7 in the UFC. He hasn't really beat that many good opponents, if we're being real. His opponent, Victor Henry, can't say he's much better. 24-6, 37 years of age. So he's actually getting on a bit. But he is 3-1 in the UFC. No contest to Javid Basharat. Only lost in the UFC coming to a Sun Show. So, and he looks not too bad. He beat Barcelos, Yaya in his last fight as well. So a tough one to pick really. I don't know if Charles Jourdain is going to bounce back from his last loss, but I'm going to go with Henry to get this job done. Even though he is getting on a bit, I feel like he's coming into this fight with a win, and I reckon he's going to get this job done by decision. Now, moving up the card too. Ariane Lipski versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. Now, Jasudavicius, it's pretty good women's flyweight, to be fair. She's 5-2 in the UFC. Most wins coming by decision. I mean, she lost to Tracy Cortez and Natalia Silva, but apart from that, she's beat a few decent women fighters there. Lipski, 17-9, is coming off a loss to Karine Silva. She's currently 6-6 in the UFC, and she's only 30 to be fair, but she's had quite a lot of fights. So it's a toss-up again. Women's fights are always a toss-up. What can I say? But I am leaning towards Jasmine Jasudavicius. I do think she's quite a good women's fighter, to be fair. I think she's coming off a win as well. She's 2 wins in a row. So I feel like she's going to get this job done. And I reckon she gets the job done by decision. Now, moving up the card to Eamon Zahabi versus Pedro Munhoz. Now, fun fight here. A bantamweight, I think this is, yeah. Munhoz, 29, is on a 2-fight losing streak at the minute. Hasn't looked great in either fights. Did win against Chris Gutierrez, which is not a bad win to be fair. And then obviously had no contest against Sean O'Malley. But I mean, he's lost a lot of fights to be fair. He's currently 10-9 in the UFC. He's 38 as well, getting on a bit. He's on a losing streak as well. Zahabi, on the other hand, 11-2 record. Coming off winning against Javid Basharat, so it's a pretty good win. He's on a 4-fight winning streak in total as well. So I feel like Zahabi is going to get this job done here. I mean, he looks pretty good at the minute on a winning streak against a quite old Pedro Munhoz. So I'm going to go over to Zahabi to get this job done by decision. Now, moving up to the main card now. Mike Malott versus Trevin Giles. Now, Malott, shocking performance in his last fight. I mean, he should have won. the fight. He won about 14 minutes of the fight, and then in the last minute of the round, he got ground and pounded by Neil Magny. So definitely should have won that, but didn't. And now he's getting put against Trevin Giles in the UFC, 16-6 on a 2-fight losing streak. He's been finished quite a lot as Trevin Giles. He's never went to decision. He's never lost by decision. He's been finished in all his fights. So I can see Mike Malott winning this. He's going to bounce back. He should have beat Magny. It was just unfortunate he gassed out at the end or something. So I think Malott is going to beat Giles here pretty convincingly, and I think he's going to get the submission in round number 1. Now moving up the card 2, Marc-Andre Barriault versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Now Barriault, I think he's coming off a loss to Joe Pyfer, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, KO loss to Joe Pyfer. Then he had a split decision loss to Chris Curtis. Before that, he's lost quite a few fights. He is 5-7 now in the UFC with won no contest. Dustin Stoltzfus, on the other hand, I remember I picked him to win against Soriano, and that was one of my best underdog picks I've picked on this channel. But then he did lose to Bruno Ferreira by spinning elbow in his last fight. But he also lost to Abus Magomedov. But it could go either way. This really, I don't think either of these guys are very special fighters, to be honest. But I do think there's value in Stoltzfus. He might be the underdog, I'm pretty sure, but it's very close anyway. So I think Stoltzfus is going to get this job done. I mean, I just don't think Marc-Andre Barriault is very good, in my honest opinion. Both these guys coming off KO as well. So I feel like it's a good time for Dustin Stoltzfus to get the win here. And I think he gets the job done by decision. Now, moving up the card too, Kyle Machado versus Brenson Ribeiro. Now, I don't know why this fight is so high up on the main card. Maybe because it's a heavyweight fight. I don't know if this might be a light heavyweight. I think Machado's moved down to light heavyweight here. He's lost his last 2 to Mick Parkin and Don'Tale Mayes, which isn't great, to be honest, to have on your record. Won on the decision against, on the contender series even, he won by decision. So he's not had the best run in the UFC, to be honest, but Brenson Ribeiro hasn't been very good either. I mean, he's lost his last 2. Both these guys have came in the UFC, won on the contender series and lost twice in the UFC. But I do think that, Ribeiro's been KO'd and then lost a decision. I think he got KO'd by Ming Yang Zhang. So I do think Machado coming down, he's going to be better at light heavyweight than he was at heavyweight. I think he was just getting grappled to bits up at heavyweight by Mays and Parkin. So I feel like Machado is going to come in here, and I think he's going to beat Ribeiro, and I think he's going to get the KO in round number 1. Now, moving up the card too, Derrick Lewis versus Jhonata Diniz. Now, I love watching Derrick Lewis fight, man. He's finally back. The knockout king. I think he still has the most knockouts in UFC or something like that. 19-10 in total. He's coming off that win against Nascimento. He's fighting early in the card, but he's not had the best of records in recent times. I mean, he's only had 2 wins in his last 7 fights. He's on a 2-5 streak at the minute. Jhonata Diniz, 8-0, looks pretty good. Got that good win against Carl Williams that actually impressed me. He looked pretty good there, stopped the wrestling and stuff. Obviously KO'd Austin Lane as well. So I actually think Diniz is going to win this one. I mean, usually I pick Lewis, it's a toss-up really. Lewis can easily KO anyone. It doesn't matter who you are. But I do think that Diniz looks pretty good, and I feel it's going to be too good for Lewis in his old age. And Diniz is going to get the KO in round number 3. Now, moving up the card too, Rose Namajunas versus Erin Blanchfield, the co-main event. Now, high-level women's matchup here. Rose Namajunas is very good. I mean, she's coming off 2 wins, Ribas and Cortez. I mean, she lost to Fiora obviously before that, but she's getting a winning streak coming up here. I mean, Erin Blanchfield lost all her hype train. She was on a very good winning streak, to be fair, and then she obviously lost to Fiora as well. Everyone thought she would probably beat her, but I picked Fiora, of course I did, because I'm good at picking fights. And she got fraud checked, I think people would say, but I don't think so. I think Fiora's pretty good. But I do think this is it should be a good matchup here. But I do think Namajunas is also a step up for Blanchfield. I do think Namajunas is a very good fighter, so I'm going to pick Namajunas to get this job done by decision. Now, moving up to the main event, Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi. Now, I think this might be a number 1 contender fight. It might not be. I mean, there's there's quite like Royval is here like as well. Royval kind of deserves the next title shot, but then there's Kai Asakura there as well. So there's a lot of fights to be made really. Like they've all got claims for a title shot here. I mean, I suppose if Moreno wins this, could do a rematch again with Royval. Who knows what's going to happen? To be honest, we'll see who wins the title in whenever it is. I'm not even sure. UFC 310 or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, Moreno. That split decision loss to Royval. I don't even think it was. I can't remember if it was a split decision, like if it should have been or not. I don't think Royval won because Moreno didn't look like the way he fought was terrible. I mean, he could have. I think he could have easily beat Royval in that fight, but yeah, he just was really. His game plan was really bad. Amir Albazi, on the other hand, 17-1, pretty good. A lot of people say he absolutely robbed Kai Kara-France in the last fight. I didn't watch it, unfortunately. I still haven't watched it back for some reason. I haven't had time. I keep forgetting. But I've been told it was a pretty bad robbery. He shouldn't have won the fight. But still, he's here. He's 17-1. Pretty good fighter in my opinion. Amir Albazi, I mean, he could definitely win this fight here. It could go either way, to be honest. I feel like Albazi, with a win, has also got a claim for a title shot as well. So I feel like if Moreno comes out, he can easily outperform Albazi here. But I don't know what version of Moreno we're going to get, so I'm going to go with Albazi to get this job done by decision. So there we have it. There are my picks for UFC Fight Night, Moreno versus Albazi. Let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my picks. And that's all for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, remember you leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.